Okay, hello everybody. Once again, hello everybody. We're going to talk a bit about photography. That's a huge subject. I can't get into all of it because it's so huge. There's journalism photography, there's art photography, fine art photography, which we will talk about. There's commercial photography, taking pictures of computers, taking pictures of boats and cars to sell boats, to sell cars, to sell computers. There's wedding photography, where they say no bride is ugly. Well, some of them are. I'm sorry. Okay. So we have all these different types of photography. Today we'll talk about fine art photography. Fine art photography has been around for as long as photography itself has been around. Some of the earlier fine art photographers were Edward Strachan, Edward Weston, and I could go on and on here. Later photographers more closer to my own generation were Robert Mapplethorpe. Typically, fine art photography is black and white photography. Not always, it could be color, but typically if you talk about photography that's fine art, you look at things that are perhaps not so realistic, and that would be in black and white. Life is not in black and white, life is in color. But fine art photography shows a different part of life, shall we say, an artistic part of life. Fine art photography is something I was involved in for many years. Sadly, it makes very little money unless you are connected with the proper gallery owners. In the fine art photography capital of the world, in New York City, to a lesser extent, London is important. To a lesser extent, Paris. To a lesser extent, Tokyo. But number one is New York City for fine art photography. In terms of buying cameras, I've never gotten into digital cameras at all. I don't like digital. I never got into it. I have no interest. My thing was film photography. To me, it's a lot more interesting. We also call it analog photography. And the cameras I used were 35 millimeter Nikon and medium format Mamiya. Some other popular cameras would be Hasselblad, medium format, Canon, 35 millimeter. All these companies now make digital cameras. And I'm sorry, I know very little about them because I have no interest in them. Okay. Otherwise, we're talking about important people throughout history. Well, it depends what you're talking about. You're talking about politics, you're talking about government, then we'd say George Washington, the United States, the first president of the United States. Are you talking about philosophy, democracy, republicanism, etc.? We talk about John Locke in Great Britain. Talk about Alexander Hamilton in the USA, who was more so a federalist, was more so favoring the elite of society. We talk about important people on the other side of the spectrum, which you may or may not consider evil. We talk about nationalist leaders in Asia who were also communists, Ho Chi Minh in Vietnam, Mao Zedong in China. We'll talk about Russia with Joseph Stalin. We don't care about how bad or how good they were. We say, are they important? Yeah, they're important. Good or bad doesn't matter right now. We're talking important. We're not talking about good or bad. Okay. There's important people in all walks of life, always has been. Some of them are very wealthy, some of them are not. Let's say Socrates, the famous Greek philosopher, was very poor, but everybody listens to his philosophy even today. And then you'll have somebody like Bill Gates, who's very rich. People pay attention to him. So if you want to be important, you better have some ideas. Doesn't matter how much money you have. You can have a lot of money and still be an idiot. So you can have very little money and be a genius. So all this depends on how you present yourself and what you have to say. That's all I have to say about importance. And that's all I have to say about photography today. Thank you very much.